There are three things that are guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and weird coasters. It has been almost a year since our last Weird Coasters video, and I don't know about you, but I am so ready to make another one. The amusement industry is a work of art, and the coasters that come out of some of these manufacturers are just downright insane. And with over 12,000 coasters that have had the opportunity to touch this planet, there are bound to be some absolutely strange ones. Today's video, we'll look at 10 different coasters that are unique, quirky, or gimmicky in some way or some form. These coasters range from weird theming to strange profiling, all the way to just having an outright bizarre name. This is part 4 of the series, and we have 10 more coasters to cover, so let's dive right in. Starting off our list is a coaster that doesn't seem strange on the surface, but when you learn of the backstory and a little bit about its history, it becomes very interesting. And that is Powder Keg. For those of you who don't know, Powder Keg has technically been operating since 1999, and technically is a premierized liquid coaster, at least according to RCDB. Powder Keg opened up as Buzzsaw Falls, a prototype premierized liquid coaster, and it was never good from the start. This coaster had so many maintenance issues, it was crazy. They lost water and had to pump more in, the trains kept on tripping sensors, and had movable plastic shields to keep water out of the flumes. The layout was pretty cool with both log flume and coaster elements, and it looked like it could be a competitor to the brand new Mach water coaster. But this coaster just wasn't it, and Silver Dollar City hired SNS to redo it, and it is so much better now. They added that air launch that we all know and loved, and used some of the original track as well as the existing chain lift. So that is how Powder Keg became known as it is today, and it is one strange story. The next coaster we're talking about is called Pit Special at Power Park in Finland. This is a Gerstlauer Infinity coaster, so nothing special there, but look at this layout. When this originally was under construction, it was rumored to be a layout extension of Junker. The park was starting construction on a coaster that quite literally was the same color, same model, same trains, same everything, and right next to it too. People were so confused by the new track arriving and just what the park was doing, because building the same coaster right next to it just makes no sense at all. This coaster took Junker's launches and inversions and basically removed them. The layout itself is also quite unique, with it being Gerstlauer's attempt at a non-inverting airtime machine. And from the reviews, it kind of achieves that, but I want to know why this was even built. Next up is a model that is quite awful, and that is the Intamin ZacSpin. While I actually wouldn't say this model is purely awful, it just has a really bad reputation from Green Lantern at Magic Mountain. Essentially, this is the SNS Freespin before that existed, and the model did fine up until Green Lantern. That coaster quite literally beat people up and probably gave them minor concussions. The story is that Six Flags modified some of the operational stuff on Green Lantern and it didn't spin properly, which resulted in basically assault. And this is just a weird model, and I don't see the reason why it exists and why it is still getting built. Yes, there was supposed to be one opening in China in 2024. I don't know if it opened or not, but it's really well themed and everything. Nevertheless, this is just a worse SNS Freespin, and that model already sucks to begin with. Next up is Epic Coaster at Quest in Doha. This is the world's tallest indoor coaster, which already turns some heads. Why does this record exist and why do people brag about it? I have no idea, but it's here whether you like it or not. This coaster is very interesting, and I want to know why it exists. It starts with a backward launch of a 186-foot twisted spike all indoors, which is quite insane if you think about it. You have to build a 186-foot structure to just contain that spike. But the weirdest thing about this coaster is what follows. The actual layout is a clone of Deep Space at Magica, but that coaster doesn't have this crazy backward spike, so after passing back to the launch, the LSMs actually slow you down to the desired speed, the same speed on Deep Space, and the layout is the same from there. Like a lot of coasters on this list, I have no idea why it exists, but it does. Next up is Bat at Kings Island, and this isn't the one that is operating right now. No, this is the original one. The original Bat was the first aero suspended coaster, so with all prototype models, it has its own issues. The issue with this coaster was that Aerodynamics had no idea what they were getting themselves into. Besides some operational issues, the Bat was just not built properly. Aero decided that this coaster did not need banking, and because of that, the coaster cars would swing up to 100 degrees, making for an absolutely insane ride experience, and probably way too out of control for most riders. It only operated 3 seasons before it got torn down, and Aero figured out how to properly build a suspended coaster. Kings Island would later get the last installation of an Aero suspended coaster in 1993, which is now known as the Bat. So the original Bat was weird for all its swinging, but it's also a fun fact that Kings Island got the first and last Aero suspended coaster. Next up is a pair of coasters that have been SB&O for the longest time ever, and that is Andromeda Base and Mad Ramp Peak. Let's first talk about Andromeda Base. This would have been Dynamic Attraction's second ever SFX coaster. It looks to have quite the layout with 2 corkscrews and a good handful of tricks that it does indoors. SFX coasters are really cool, really expensive, and really unnecessary. I'm surprised Mission Ferrari even opened at all. In particular, Andromeda Base was hit really hard. It was built with an Alien vs Predator IP in mind, and then had to drop it, and that's where we got Andromeda Base from. And with rides like these, it's hard to do an IP change because the ride was built with a story in mind, but it can work if done well. The trains, the track, everything seemingly was going well for this coaster until dynamic attractions went bankrupt. The outdoor sections of the track are now just rusting away, and the indoor track that wasn't installed yet is just also lying around. So this coaster and Madarant Peak, and mainly Genting Skyworlds, got screwed over. Pretty much all the assemblies for the trains were sold to make some dough, and Andromeda Base will forever stand as a reminder to Genting Skyworlds on how not to spend money. Madarant Peak, on the other hand, is a weird coaster to just begin with. It looks more like a slot car ride than a coaster, and I still don't fully understand why this is classified as a coaster. I think there's some sort of powered coaster track underneath the fake track, so it's considered a coaster, but like no one can give me a solid answer on that. Anyways, Genting Skyworld is trying to get this coaster open, especially because it has already done some testing cycles. I've heard the operating costs are quite high, and it is very complicated to get this ride certified when the original manufacturer can't finish the coaster, but who knows. Nevertheless, this looks like such an interesting ride, and borderline not really a coaster, but I do really hope it opens sometime soon. Next up are the two Mauer flying launch coasters. These look like pretty standard launch coasters, and they pretty much are. The one unique factor about both Dragon Legend and Freischutz are both of these coasters do not have any form of a brake run. The coaster actually blows through the station and is stopped by the LSMs on the first launch, and it's not like stopped in the station, it goes like all the way to the end of the launch track. It is then pushed back into the station by the LSM launch, and it's just really strange. Now of course Skyrocket 2s also do this, but this is like a full complete layout. I guess I just didn't see a need for a brake run for some reason. Next up is Batman and Robin the Chiller. This coaster is very interesting for a lot of reasons. It is an old Premier coaster and one of their older LIM launches. The crazy thing about it is that this is a dueling shuttle coaster, which is such a strange combination. There are two sides, Batman and Robin, and they launch into this mess of a support structure and go through their respective layouts. This ride pulled forces, had a great launch, and had some backwards airtime. It was such an insane coaster, and it is sad it didn't last because of operational issues. One funny story about this is that this coaster could not launch at the same time because of the amount of power it was taking from the grid, so they staggered the launches between the two sides. Last up is another model, and it might be one of the weirdest designs I have ever seen. And then the thing is, it's not some old model that has seen its days already gone by, it is actually a brand new model that is making its debut this year, and that is the Pax Boomerang. If you know Pax, they are responsible for some of the weirdest coasters in the world, but this new model has me scratching my head and asking, just why? This is their first coaster in over 10 years, so I guess that's exciting. Anyways, this is a wing shuttle coaster with spinning cars. It is their take on a free spin model. The coaster opening this year navigates a layout that is stacked on itself, and it has this really weird element with the track dipping down to go back up. I don't really understand how this would be a good coaster, but it's Pax. What can I say? It basically is a free spin Cobra model. It even has the hilariously long spike at the end. It is just bizarre. I probably will never get to this coaster in my life, but we will see if more of these get built. So those are 10 weird coasters / models for you guys. I hope I introduced you to some new weird coasters. That's all for today's video, guys. As always, make sure to like and subscribe, join the Discord, link in the description. Have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.